Hello my scrappy friends, it is Jess here from the Scrappy Sisters and thank you for joining me for a Kitaholic Kits design team layout. So I started this layout by cutting that beautiful pink ombre paper into about a 9-inch squared. It suited my layout to use the pink side, but it certainly hurt my heart a little bit to not be able to use that beautiful blue ombre, or was more like a blue watercolor wash with those gorgeous florals, but it really worked with this layout to use the pink. I stitched all the way around the edge of that to create its own little border, but I did pre-plan it. So I stopped stitching when I got to the section that I knew was going to end up being cut off, because I was worried if I cut through my stitching it would unravel, and I definitely didn't want that to happen. So I had already planned where to stop so that I didn't cut off stitched parts, if that makes sense. So you might say you've seen a layout similar to this before. You absolutely have. I scrap lifted this originally, but I have also done it myself back in March with some wedding photos. So you may have seen this kind of concept around the traps quite a bit. I just love it though, because I love the way it lets you use a relatively strong patterned paper that might be overpowering of your photos, and get quite a bit of that onto your page, but still let your photos sort of sit or be matted on something that's a bit calmer and make sure they still pop off the page as well. I desperately wanted to use a lot of this pattern paper when I saw it, because I just knew it was perfect to match these photos of my niece. She's obviously a girl, so I just loved that it was pink and florally, but she's also wearing this beautiful mustard color, which is basically identical to the color of the flowers in the florals. So it was just perfect match to go with my photos. So I really wanted to get as much of that pattern paper into this layout. But I knew if I just put my photos straight onto this pattern paper, they had the potential of getting a bit lost. So I just love the way by matting them onto this larger piece of card, it kind of tones down the pattern paper just enough for my photos to still stand out. I then kind of went for a horizontal design with my embellishments. It's a bit winky wonky because I wanted to go with the same sort of line or angle that the ombre paper's on, but the concept is still the same, where I've sort of started to embellish in the center of the photos on the left and followed that line all the way across my page. You might have noticed that I put 2 little doilies underneath my photographs. Again, that was just to soften the look around the photos, so that the florals aren't too harsh, that background florals aren't too harsh, and just to make it nice and soft and girly, because obviously she is a little baby. I absolutely adore those material hearts from Cocoa Vanilla Studio. They are perfect color match for this layout, and I definitely had to get those on the page. So that mustard one was a no-brainer because it is an absolute color match, and I will also pop another one on as well, as you can see when I build up these clusters over this side. Now I did have a little problem with my title. I knew I definitely was using the word lovely as kind of my main title. I loved the size of it, I loved the font of it, and I loved the color of it, but it does get quite lost on the page. You can even see while it's just sitting there how lost it is getting, and then I just go and exacerbate that by adding a whole bunch of other words around it, and it ends up not being the word that sort of catches your eye the most, but it's the word I would like to catch your eye the most, if that makes sense. I toyed around with the idea of getting like a black fine liner and maybe tracing the text so that it's a bit darker and a bit more obvious, but I was really nervous that if I did that, I'd just ruin it, and I don't have another one. So I've just left it, but if you do have any tips on what I could have done to help make it pop, please let me know in the description box down below. I think the only other thing I could have done before attaching it is maybe to use some ink around the edges, like of the actual ephemera piece itself, to add a little bit of shadow to it, I guess, that just sort of contrasts it and helps it pop off the page a little bit. Otherwise, I'm just not sure what would have been the best way to get it to pop out more. And if you have got a suggestion that's something I could do now that it's already attached, I am all ears. So you can see here how this layout is coming, how this layout is coming together. I'm really happy with the concept. I love the way it looks. I think the photos are getting a little bit overwhelmed, but it's enough that they still pop out. I just love the color palette of this as well. And I think it is just gorgeous. So once I put on my little puffies and finish this one off, I will of course get my Heidi Swap Color Shine. Now, normally I'm super lazy and I don't cover my photos to protect them from any splatters. I kind of just roll with it, and if you get splatters on the photo, that's just all part of the aesthetic. But in this particular case, the photos are quite close to the clusters, which is where I want my splatters to go, and they're pretty much just close-ups of my niece's face. So I'm like, I definitely don't want splatters right on her face because it's kind of going to ruin it. So I did cover them this time, which was a good idea because I actually got quite a lot of splatter onto my little cover there. And I actually only end up using one Heidi Swap Color Shine. It's the color Blush. And I'm also using the Jen Hatfield Gold and the Dilutions, I think it is, White. Then I decided last minute I want to pop some enamel dots on. Normally I wouldn't do those after the splatters because knowing my luck, I would stick my finger in a splatter and smudge it. But I was lucky this time. So here are my photos. I'm really happy with the way this layout came together. Thank you for watching my process video. I hope you have enjoyed this, and I cannot wait to share with you my one last project coming up later in the month. Thanks everyone. Bye.